Well, we'll go ahead and call tonight's meeting. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Leahy.
Here.
Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Ryder. Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, next item up is public items, and members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note, individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. We did have a sign-up sheet, and I do have one person listed here on it at this time. Would Kim Donaway please come forward? And if you would give your name and your address for the record, Kim.
Excuse me, Kim Donaway, and I have a property in Merriam, Kansas.
Do you have your address, please?
I don't give out my address publicly anywhere. I was threatened before, so that is, do you put out your address to the public too?
I do, but
Okay,
that's okay. Go ahead.
So anyways, there's a reason why, but this is about two things. One is about trees in Merriam and owners. Like, I have spent thousands on my property on trees. I'm getting them trimmed, getting them cleaned up. So we never have damage coming down. Don't have damage coming down on neighbors' properties. This last round, I have the neighbor on the east who has never maintained his trees, and the trees were never on my property. They never crossed the vertical space. They come crashing down, these massive things that should have been trimmed and cleaned up over the years and taken down, now on my property, but they're still attached at the base on his property. So I was told one of the things is when a tree when the tree is entirely 100% on his property, which has been all these years, it is his responsibility or his homeowner's insurance. So it's like, okay, but I'm also being told it's my responsibility, but I'm furious because it's still attached to his property. He has done nothing. So then I called Fairway about ordinances, and they actually took a quick look at Merriam's. They said there is in the nuisance about that. They could have addressed that. Because I asked about, because I got a letter, and that's why I went over. And I said, what about the front tree that was down on his front yard for 3 years? And then the property on the west, where that's a rental, has been for decades, and the tree that's down in the back, nothing was done. And so I get the comment that they have to see it from the sidewalk and from the street. So guess what? I got out and I walked the street. I took photos. 4 other properties had trees down, and none of them got a violation. And it's like, oh, or the private property that you call it, which are homeowners, not being looked at just because there's not a rental. That's not fair. That's discrimination. I don't agree with that. But those 2 trees of his are massive. And then he's got other trees that are going back that are down. And so when I hear that there's actual ordinances, I really wish Merriam will take a look and enforce those to have those bad actors, even though it's homeowner, clean up their trees. Because I don't have the money to spend thousands to clean up his mess that he's refused to for years, and that's not fair. The other piece is, because I'm hearing about it, is because the police know about this young gentleman on 51st Street. It's happening a lot between Knox and Schweitzer. He's ripping off mail in the mailboxes, but since nobody has photos, but they've seen him, he's stolen vehicles from there because one of my tenant friend, they found out who it was, but they couldn't do anything. And I don't understand why the same individual's being allowed to break into properties, steal mail, which is federal, And this is continuing, and they can't do anything, because what I'm hearing is they can't do anything, the police officers. So what is a solution to help those residents in that area to stop the nonsense, because they know who's doing it, and he's been seen. So that's all I have to say today. So thank you, I appreciate it.
And you have reached out to our police department and our community?
I haven't,
director?
but the tenants have.
Is
And
those-
that,
those
because
are
I
the
even
two-
went and bought a new mailbox. He goes, it won't matter, Kim. They're opening them up and stealing. He goes, we know who it is.
Okay.
Because they've seen them. And then so the one, I said, have they put up cameras? You know, start doing that. I mean, I'm not a camera person, but I don't want to go past my time. Because you asked me a question. So,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Okay, yeah, I have no one else signed up for public comments, but that doesn't preclude anyone from coming forward at this time if it's for any item that's not on the agenda. Okay, I see no one coming forward, so we will close out public items. Next item up is the consent agenda. All items under this heading are considered to be routine by the City Council, may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. We do have two items this evening. Does anyone on the council wish to have either item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Okay, I see no one wanting to have anything removed. I would entertain a motion. Mr. Silvers.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that the council approve consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Ms. Hands.
Yes, I'll be happy to second that.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, next item up is the mayor's report. And I always like to tell everyone a little bit about what's been going on in the city behind the scenes with our council members and myself. And I will ask, because I was not able to attend this, did anybody attend the popsicle with the pop cop event? I had that down on my calendar, but I didn't make it, so, okay. Well, we didn't do that, but hopefully some of you got a chance to do that. But, okay, I, Mr. Engel, and Director Dyer met with Bob Johnson and Eric, don't remember his last name, with Merriam Town Center. We talked about some exciting prospects that will make a lot of people happy if they can land some new tenants, and there's more on those meetings to come. So that's all I'm going to share at this time. But I and Councilmember Hands met with Mr. Engel to prepare tonight's agenda. Councilmember Hands and Ms. Guard attended the Northeast Johnson County Lunch Recycling event. And Councilmember Hands, Shavetta, and Leahy attended the Park and Rec's Employee Lunch and Jeopardy event. Don't know if we won or not, but hopefully we did. Councilmember Hands and Director Dyer and Director Kumke attended the Corps of Engineers Change in Command ceremony. Got to meet the new officer in charge over there. Councilmember Hands attended the Northeast Chamber of Commerce Banter and Beers event down at Merriam's Strips Chicken, our very own chicken place. Councilmembers Silvers and Shavetta attended the Public Arts Committee meeting. They're making strides toward the next art piece. And they'll be bringing that forward to the full council here soon, hopefully. Thank you for representing us on that committee. Councilmember Silvers attended the Merriam Drainage Board meeting where they discussed the 2025 budget. I understand. Thank you for going to that. I attended the cruise night at the farmers market. Great cars, great company, great band, and great food. Thank you for our Park and Rec department for putting that on. It's always a good event. And City Hall, a couple things coming up. City Hall Selfie Day is coming up on August 15th, which is this Thursday at 9:30 a.m. So if you're able to attend up here at the City Hall, please come up and be a part of that picture. And then I also need to mention the September 14th car show is going to be coming up. And we need volunteers for that event. So, and there are a lot of different things you can do. So hopefully you're able to attend that. And if you're going to be there anyway, why don't you volunteer and spend an hour or two helping out the city. If interested, please see our city clerk, Julie Pinnock, for that opportunity. And I understand you get a shirt if you are a volunteer as well. So
Free
there you go.
T-shirt.
Free T-shirt. So, and that's pretty much all I have for the mayor's report. Okay, looks like council items is up next. Approval of a bond ordinance and accompanying documents for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds. And we have Mr. Serrano is coming to the podium, and I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Joe Serrano, Kutek Rock, U.S. City's Bond Counsel. You may recall last October, the city approved a resolution declaring the intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for Trident Merriam LLC in the approximate amount of $10,160,000. The IRBs will allow for a sales tax exemption on the construction materials for the commercial facility, which is located at 9510 West 67th Street. There is no property tax abatement with these IRBs. It's for sales tax only on the construction materials. The IRBs are payable solely from the rent payments under a lease that is entered in between the city and the company. Importantly, there is no obligation on the part of the city to pay any principal or interest. In fact, the statutes, KSA, Kansas Statutes Annotated 12-17-43 provides that the revenue bonds shall not be in any respect be a general obligation of the city, nor shall they be payable in any manner by taxation. So before you this evening is a bond ordinance that authorizes the issuance of the bonds as well as approves certain documents. I'll run through those documents real quickly. There's a trust indenture between the city and Security Bank of Kansas City that authorizes the bonds and provides security for the bonds. There's a base lease where the company will actually lease the facility to the city. And then there's the third document is it's a lease where the company leases back the project to the city. The city leases the project back to the company, and under that lease is where the rents are required to pay for the bonds. And then the last document is a bond purchase agreement, where in this instance the company is also buying the bonds. They have an obligation under the lease to make the payments, but they're also the bond owner, so effectively they're paying themselves through the bond trustee. The developers and the developers council are also here, but I'm happy to answer any questions associated with this. This was very similar to what we did for Merriam Grand Station. I want to say last year, but my time's flying, so I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it's sales tax only IRBs. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Serrano? Okay, this is getting to be old hat.
I know, that's great.
It appears that we want to waive the first customary first reading. I would entertain a motion for that. Sands.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of an ordinance issuing IRBs for the Trident Merriam LLC Aristocrat. I am not really choked up emotionally. And to authorize the signing of the bond documents.
Yeah, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, having waived the first reading, I would entertain a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Silvers, or?
I have a comment before
Oh,
we
you have a comment.
vote.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to remind everyone that the first time this came up, I voted no. I didn't believe that this IRB should be awarded, and so I will be voting no against it. I just wanted to remind people why.
Okay, all right. I would entertain a motion. Ms. Shadrich, were you getting ready to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve an ordinance issuing IRBs for the Trident Merriam LLC Aristocrat (parentheses) project and authorize the signing of the bond documents.
Okay, we have a motion. I have a second. Ms. Hands.
Yes, I second that.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers. Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. Okay, it looks like next item up, consider approval of a development agreement And it looks like we got Director Dyer coming to the podium.
Mayor, council members, Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. Last year at this time, you all may recall you approved a preliminary development plan for the new Aristocrat Mercedes building that's being constructed right now. At that point in time, in recognition of a number of different things, first of all, the city's desire to pedestrian connectivity through that area, also that the city was getting ready to start the planning process for Carter Street improvements. Everybody, Aristocrat, the city all acknowledged that the best plan at that point in time was for us all to step back and try to work out the sidewalks specifically. And in order to do that and keep Aristocrat going forward, there was a condition that was on that preliminary development plan about entering into a development agreement. And that's the agreement that you have before you this evening. Kind of the three main points on that is that Aristocrat will be responsible for installing the sidewalk along West 67th Street. So that's the sidewalk that'll be on the north side of the street. I do want to point out that that sidewalk is not going to go all the way to the property line. Number of issues with regards to slope or where the sidewalk continues as it continues on east on the neighboring gas station property. So it made sense to stop it just a little bit short of the property line. Then the sidewalk that's going to be on Carter Street, the city will install that as part of our Carter Street CIP project. We will then bill that sidewalk cost back to Aristocrat, and they will reimburse the city for that. And then the last thing is there's a revised landscape plan that's in there. As you go south along Carter Street on the east side, it gets very, very, very hectic in regards to utilities. And Aristocrat's in the process of doing undergrounding their utilities, not theirs, but Evergy's utilities along Carter Street, and we're all very familiar with that in Cheyenne Mission Parkway. So also at that corner, there's also a Southern Star gas transmission line, so there's a lot of stuff right there. And to get the sidewalk in and all that in there, the trees were along Carter Street needed to be moved. So they have moved them to an interior spot on their parking lot, as well as added some additional trees on the east side of the development, and then also additional plantings around the detention pond. So that was also in that agreement as well. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Dyer? Okay, I see no questions. I would entertain a motion if you want to move forward with this.
Shall I try again?
Yes, Ms. Hands, go ahead, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve the developer agreement with Trident Merriam LLC Aristocrat for the installation of sidewalks adjacent to their new Mercedes-Benz dealership building.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Go ahead, Ms. Chandra.
Mr. Mayor, a second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, we're going to just change our order just a little bit here for the council. They're not aware of this, but we do have Commission Chairman Mike Kelly, who's in the audience, and I think he's got some other places he also needs to be this evening. So I would like to go to number 7 and have Commissioner Chairman, or Chairman Kelly, come forward to the podium and please share with us what you have.
Mayor, thank you very much for the consideration there. Mayor Pape, council members of the great city of Merriam, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening, and thank you to staff for your warm welcome as well. We appreciate it very much. I want to take the opportunity, first of all, to thank you for your continued partnership on any number of projects that the county and Merriam are working on together. It's through those deep partnerships that we're able to provide this unique quality of life here in Johnson County, Kansas. And having sat where you are sitting now, I understand the important role of local government and how that is crucial to that quality of life for our residents. So thank you very much for what you're doing. At Mayor Pape's invitation, I did want to take a real quick moment just to update you on some of the things going on at the county level. Happy to answer questions about those, but also want to keep things brief, understanding that you all have more on your plate this evening. So let me dive in. Obviously, one of the quality of life elements that people love in Johnson County are our parks and libraries. The jewel of our library system sits right here in Merriam, and that is the Merriam Plaza Library. We are very happy to cut the ribbon on that in partnership with you. You all know the great asset that is the community. Parks and Recreation is also up for a gold medal this year. That is the award given out to the very best Parks and Recreation Department in the nation. Johnson County is again a finalist for that award. You can only win that award once every 5 years. We won it, let's say, about 5 years ago. So crossing our fingers in the hopes of a good result, I believe in September, where they're going to announce that award. But we have such a unique asset in JCPRD, and we appreciate everybody's support for that. At our board retreat last year, we established 4 real priorities for the county in no particular order. Number 1 is taking care of our staff. Number 2, infrastructure. Number 3, a safe and healthy community. And 4, housing. So let me give just a brief update on each of those. As it relates to staff, we took a keen look at how we were providing competitive wages for the people in our county and made some adjustments to that pay table to bring everybody at least to the median of the market. Understanding that that was a big change. And that has paid off. In our first year of providing those increase in wages, we have lowered our turnover significantly, as well as more than doubled the applications for our vacant positions. In a challenging workforce, which I know we're all experiencing, we are very proud that those efforts are paying off. We also had our staff satisfaction survey, the results of which came back very positively about that being an encouraging and rewarding work environment for our staff. And so the 4,200 people who work in Johnson County in local and public government for Johnson County government, we know that they're really the backbone of the team. And so making sure we take care of them is a big priority. In terms of infrastructure, Johnson County wastewater is a big component of that. When you see the size of our budget, it is eye-popping. Don't get me wrong. 1.8 billion shocks me every time I hear it too. But a big component of that is the investments we're making into wastewater, not the least of which is the Nelson Wastewater Treatment Facility here in Northeast Johnson County. I will report to you that through partnership with WIFIA loans, which is a federal loan program, as well as the state revolving fund, we are saving north of $250 million on that project by getting more competitive rates. So we're very proud of the diligence that our staff went through to make sure that we are financing this project in the most advantageous way possible while we build it to stand the test of time with the environment as a primary concern. Additionally, we are relocating some of that sanitary sewer line for the US 69 highway project. I was out touring that earlier last week. That project is still on time. And stay the course, Johnson County. We'll get there eventually. The final piece of that project is set to take place in 2026. Additionally, a safe and healthy community, MedAct is a primary component of that. Again, as always, the number 1 ranked priority for folks is our MedAct team. We've got new stations. The closest one to you is in Shawnee. Brand new MedAct station there. We have a co-location that recently opened with Overland Park on Metcalf, 75th, just off of Metcalf, excuse me. And then we broke ground on a facility in Olathe. So making sure that we keep good response times for MedAct is important. We also want to take care of the people at MedAct, and one of those is keeping them safe. The world that we live in is a dangerous place, and we understand that we have to meet the world where it is. So we've created a tactical MedAct unit. The people who are on that tactical MedAct unit will go through the same training that a deputy would to be able to carry a firearm. They won't always carry them, but only in the tactical situations where they're supporting, say, a SWAT team. But we also wanted to make sure we provided them with the right equipment to keep them safe, and that includes body cameras for those tactical MedActs. In the budget this year, we also wanted to make sure that we funded and fully funded our aging services, our programs like Meals on Wheels. With an increased aging population in Johnson County, those services are crucial, that we can keep people who want to remain in their homes. Not only do we feel it's the right thing to do, it's a smart move financially and being able to serve those people in their own residences. Additionally, we're going to be providing one more position for JCDS to try to help break the backlog of cases, people who have intellectual disabilities that want to be served by JCDS. We're the best in the state, no doubt, but there is still a waiting list, and we want to chip away at that. So we're providing another position through JCDS. Also taking care of our most vulnerable populations, some of the alternative court programs that we have been utilizing have been very successful. That includes a veterans court program and a drug court program. Councilmember Fast is with me here today. She remains a champion of our eviction mediation program. That has been successful. We piloted that program last year, and the courts have seen a 94% success rates on tenants and landlords finding a mediated solution that would prevent an eviction judgment from going onto somebody's record, and then hopefully helping them retain sustained housing. So housing also being a big concern for us. We've partnered with a number of different communities for projects. We've also, well, one of those projects is a single-family homes neighborhood in Olathe. We've partnered with Shawnee and Gardner for additional affordable housing, some multifamily, some, again, single-family residential. We have also started a landlord incentive program, trying to get more landlords into the program of accepting vouchers. Good thing about that is we also had a pool of money to be utilized in case there's any damage to the units. That would also help assuage concerns of landlords. Luckily, there's been 0 claims on that. None of that reserve has had to be used yet. And so I think that also helps recognize that the kind of tenants that may not meet the characterization that you otherwise would hear of somebody utilizing a voucher program. And then the last piece that I wanted to talk with you about, and Mayor, if you'd like me to dive in now, I'm happy to. I don't know if you officially need to switch over the conversation in regards to housing, is the piece regarding the Housing Services Center. So I'll leave that to your discretion, whether you'd like me to stop, answer questions, or dive right in.
Well, I guess I'll ask you, would you like to entertain questions on what you've covered so far?
Absolutely.
And then we'll do the next one.
Okay. Happy to entertain
Are there any
questions.
questions for Chairman Kelly at this point concerning what he's already spoke to us about? I think you're ready to dive in then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, then thank you for the opportunity to talk about a known community need and a really unique opportunity to address that with the Housing Services Center. Whether it be UCS, whether it be the Mid-America Regional Council, or others, when you look at the continuum of housing that we have in Johnson County, there are gaps. And one of the big gaps is at the very far end of that housing continuum, and that is opportunities for those who are unhoused. We understand that that's not new, and that there's been diligent people working to try to address that for a long time. And so we're very fortunate to be able to have this opportunity to present Restart and the Housing Services Center to be able to address what we all know is a known community need. And up until this point, we haven't had that opportunity to really address it. And we're also able to address that based on federal funding that we do have, and we have allocated for this project at the county upwards of $10 million to be able not only to purchase this property, but to be able to then refurbish it into a safe and usable facility for a housing services center. And a willing seller, knowing that we have spent a lot of time looking not only in that location, but other locations for a willing seller of a hotel property to be able to convert it, knowing that the costs and the processes of doing something greenfield to this point has been exorbitant, and there hasn't been a coalition that has come together to build something brand new. So here we are with this unique opportunity today that stands to not only help us meet a need, a known gap in our continuum of services, but also gives us an opportunity to meet the moment. So in doing so, save community resources across the board. It's the right thing to do, but it also helps the pocketbook. You'll hear from Restart about our RFP process and the 16 members of that RFP that unanimously recommended Restart, not the least of which is for their more than 40 years of experience doing this, knowing that the county doesn't have the experience of running a housing services center. We wanted to bring in a partner for that. I understand that the suggestion of funding Restart from the city is a unique ask and that the timing of this isn't perfect and the communication and the process by which it's gone through also hasn't been perfect. I'll be the first to admit that. But it doesn't take away from the merits of the program and the stated community benefit that we're all set to receive should this come to fruition. One of the questions that I know you have, and thank you for letting me address it off the top, is why cities? Why doesn't the county just fund this themselves? Why are you coming around to the cities to ask for partnership on this? I don't want you to think by us coming around to the cities, we are saying, hands off, go run, restart. Quite the opposite. In addition to the funds that we'd be providing to actually allow the purchase and the rehabilitation to take place, we're also providing ongoing funding of $62,000. Plus, we are contributing to the wraparound services that are going to be at this facility. That means our certified community mental health center will have a housing and homeless services team there. Our housing department also will be providing services there, in addition to our Department of Health and Environment. Kansas Workforce Partnership will be there. Johnson County Community College will be additionally providing services. So there's really a big partnership from the county in an ongoing fashion to this. But more so, having one voice is great, but having 21 voices come together creates a chorus of voices that allows Restart a better opportunity to leverage that city and county support to be able to then bring in private, philanthropic, parochial dollars, grant funding matches that would be really great to sustain the ongoing funding for the center. Moreover, we understand that while the county is in this for the long haul, we can't bind future councils, right? And so regardless of what we do, and we say we're going to be supporting this 5 years out to every governing body entity, we don't bind future councils with their budgets, right? So if there's only one entity that is providing ongoing financial support for this, we are at the whims of one election and one change of this not being able to have that ongoing sustained funding. If we have 21 entities come together, there's a better opportunity for a baseline of support. And then if Restart needs to innovate moving forward, it gives them that a better foundation of support. So Stephanie Boyer from Restart's going to provide a presentation. Both her and I are here to answer questions. I'll also note that Aaron Wynn, our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, is here, and as previously mentioned, Commissioner Fast has joined us as well this evening. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce Stephanie Boyer from Restart. Again, thanks for letting me be here tonight.
Thank you, Chair McKellar.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having us here this evening. Stephanie Boyer from Restart. Glad to be here with you tonight. Okay, there we go. I was like, who's running that? Do I just need to tell you when to move? Okay, all right, perfect. So thanks again. So as these projects sort of come along, right, it can sometimes feel like, how did we get here? This is moving so fast now. So it's good to take a step back a little bit, to go back in time a little bit to say there have been a lot of folks all across Johnson County who have been really looking into this issue for a number of years, and really spending a lot of time to dig deep into the data and look and see what's happening in Johnson County and determining exactly what the right solution is. And so in 2021, UCS completed their housing study identifying unseen homelessness as a housing challenge across Johnson County. And so that really formed the foundation for the group to sort of dig in and host a bunch of focus groups and really dig into the data. And the Dignity Project report came out of that, which identified two major gaps in the homeless services delivery system in Johnson County currently. One of which was the need for non-congregate shelter for single adults and as well as additional transitional housing. And so that was the foundation of the RFP that was issued. So all of the work sort of leading up to that led to that response. So that's kind of how we got here today. So we can go on to the next slide. So just to take a little bit of a look at the data in Johnson County, and there's a whole lot of additional data on the United Community Services website around the coordinated entry system and the point in time data as well. So this is just a quick snapshot for you. So the point in time count is completed every January in every community across the United States, where a team of lots of volunteers go out in a 24-hour period and try to capture the number of people who are living unsheltered in our community. Additionally, we count how many folks are in shelter or transitional housing on that given night too, which gives us sort of the number that you see here, which was 250 people in Johnson County on that night in January. A couple things to note about that was that 23% of those folks were living unsheltered. So many of those folks were living in a shelter or transitional housing program. So in that coordinated entry system, there currently are some resources, particularly for families and a few resources for youth as well. A couple other things to note there are that 85% of the folks were single adults, right? So again, it coincides with the data that we've been tracking over the last 3 to 4 years, that really is the gap. Another thing to note about this is that 40% of those folks are employed. Which is pretty impressive. You don't see that in every community. And I think it says a lot about those folks. And I definitely want to employ them because once we get those folks stably housed, they're going to be a really fantastic employee if they're already managing to keep that job now. And throughout the whole coordinated entry system last year, about 685 people interacted with that system. So some may have been diverted quickly, some may have gotten rental assistance to stay housed. There are different things that happened. And 63% of those folks were either employed or had some sort of income like Social Security or disability. So again, that's really important to note. And I think between the number of people currently, the resources that exist currently, number of folks that are employed or have income, if we can add this additional piece into the system, it's very exciting. Johnson County really will be in a place to create a system that can end homelessness in Johnson County. It really will be possible, as well as creating a very robust system that if someone were to become homeless, you have a response that day, right? And that's really the goal for every community. Most communities do not have the luxury of being able to intervene in this way with a manageable number. Many communities have a much higher number, and it's going to take a lot more resources to be able to address that issue. So it's very exciting. You can go on to the next slide. So to tell you a little bit about Restart and who we are, so Chairman Kelly mentioned we have been an organization that has been serving people experiencing homelessness for over 44 years. So we've been at this work a long time. It has changed a lot over 44 years. When we began, it was an overnight shelter in the basement of a church for single men, because 44 years ago, that really was the face of homelessness. Unfortunately, the face of homelessness has drastically changed over the years. And Restart's really been an organization in our community that has responded to those ever-changing needs. And so you see there on the right-hand side, these are all the different programs that we run now. So lots of programs targeted for youth, families, veterans, and single adults. We really believe in doing this work in programs. So the old model that we began as an overnight shelter no longer exists. Every program, including shelter, is a program. And so when folks come into that, they are in each program for whatever period of time, from 30, most our shelter programs are 30 to 90 days, and some of the transitional programs are more 12 to 24 months long. So it depends on the type of program. But we really focus on case management, wraparound support services. We have employment services, behavioral health services, access to healthcare and behavioral health. Really focusing on all the things to be able to help folks find an exit out of homelessness. So that's our goal. We don't want to just Band-Aid folks with the same Band-Aid every single day and have folks still living unsheltered in our community. So that's why we do the work in that way, and it works. 90% of the people that we serve in those programs do have an exit to a safe, stable housing situation after they leave that program. You can go on to the next slide. So how will folks get into the homeless services system or center? So again, I've mentioned a couple times about that coordinated entry system as part of the continuum of care, which lives under United Community Services. And some of you may already be familiar with it, right? It's already where a lot of those resources are housed that folks were in that data, that were in a shelter program or transitional housing. So we want this center to live there too, right? Because we want to use that coordinated entry system because that's how we have the best chance of really tackling this issue. So there are 4 hubs now across Johnson County where folks can go into if they're experiencing homelessness currently or if they're at risk of homelessness. And they'll sit down and meet with someone who's been trained to do a very specific assessment. And they're going to dig into what's going on with them. And the goal of that is to find out what's the right solution here. We want to match up the need to the solution. We don't want to overdo it with a household, and we really want to identify, first of all, can we divert this household out of the system quickly, right? Maybe we can connect them back with a family member. Maybe if they're at risk, maybe we need to just negotiate with a landlord or there's something going on. So we want to be able to resolve those easy ones quickly and save the other more costly interventions and resources to match up with that right person. So that's where we'll want to continue to have folks start in the process. When folks get that assessment, they get a score. And so it's measuring their level of vulnerability. And really it's measuring their likelihood to die on the street if they remain unhoused, right? So certain factors will get you a higher score if you're a senior, if you have a chronic medical condition, things like that, a disability. So folks go on a by name list if there's not an intervention today available for them. And so they're ranked by that score. And so that's really important. So that's where we'll get the names from of folks. So we want to continue to have folks start in that hub, be assessed. If they can be diverted. And if they need this intervention and solution, then we'll bring those folks into that. You can go on to the next slide. So the 2 key features of the center, the very first one will be to provide 50 rooms of non-congregate shelter, and we are targeting single adults because, again, that's really what the data has shown us, where the gap is, right? So non-congregate, what that really means is each person has their own room and their own bathroom. So it is a hotel, and so essentially it's just each person's going to have a hotel room. Non-congregate shelter is a newer sheltering strategy that really has been pushed since the onset of the pandemic because it became really unsafe to, of course, have a room like this full of cots and people all staying in one room together, and the spread of all kinds of different things, communicable diseases can happen. So it's really a sheltering strategy that HUD has really been pushing. And we really support it as well because it really is the most trauma-informed type of program and sheltering that we can provide to folks. So, folks are really in sort of their darkest moments when they experience homelessness. And so they've often gone through a lot. So having to coming in and having your own space and to be able to process your own stuff and to work closely with a case manager and all the wraparound support services, we're going to yield a much better response with that person versus if they're having to share a room with multiple people and we're having to deal with the challenges of what that other person might be going through as well, right? So it can be distracting to one person's sort of strategy. So folks will stay in that program for 30 to 90 days. They're going to work really intensely with a case manager. They're going to have access to those employment services and Johnson County Community College and Johnson County Mental Health and all kinds of additional wraparound support services to really be able to focus on that exit out of homelessness. The second component of it is to provide 25 units of studio apartments. We'll take 25 of the rooms and convert them into an actual studio apartment with the kitchenette in them. And that will be used for transitional housing. So remember, that was our other need that was really identified. And so that's really important for a number of reasons as well. There will be folks that are going to work really hard in that 30 to 90 days, but for whatever barriers or reasons, we're not going to be able to find the right match of housing solution for them in that time. So then having that next step and that interim till we get them to that long-term solution is really critical. One population in particular that we see this a lot with are seniors who are living on a fixed income. They really need to be living in a senior housing where it's income-based, right? So they're going to only pay 30% of their income, which will set them up to have long-term stability, right? Which is what we want. But oftentimes those wait lists can be a year or two long for folks. And so we want to be able to have safe spaces where we can continue supporting folks till we can get them connected to that long-term solution. Additionally, those units will have vouchers on those units, and so that will help generate some rental income. That'll help support the overall operations of the center. So we've been strategic in trying to really diversify where those operating funds come from as well. And if we're not able to find a solution for them in that time frame, the voucher that they have there will be portable. So we can also help them to take that out into the community, and then we can replace it with another. So it's really going to be able to create a system to be able to flow and to get folks housed. Next slide. So when we talk about community benefits, I mean, there's a whole lot of them. I could talk to you all night about them. But for tonight, for the sake of time, we'll really focus on the cost of interventions, right? So if nothing more than that, every community is spending money in some capacity on people experiencing homelessness in our community. And it is much more costly to have a reactive approach and to respond to it in just an emergency basis. So you can see demonstrated here that it costs 18 times more to have an emergency response. So that includes law enforcement, EMS, emergency room, right? They're often interacting with those systems and interacting with them over and over and over because their homelessness isn't solved when they interact with any of those systems. The same is true with incarceration, 7 times more, right? So someone may be incarcerated and they come out, they're still experiencing homelessness. So they're gone for a period of time, but their homelessness hasn't ended. So the most cost-effective and the best return on our investment for our entire community is to invest in that lower cost intervention, which is housing and supportive services. Next slide. So we've touched on it a little bit. We really like to approach these projects, especially in a community that doesn't have this type of project, in the way that we know best of how to set programs up to provide long-term sustainability. And that really is through public-private partnerships. And so that's why we really are before you tonight. And Chairman Kelly's sort of mentioned why we're approaching all the cities across Johnson County, because we really do see the private philanthropy side. Every time we meet with them, they want to know they want to look at the budget and say, what kind of support do you get from cities and counties, right, for a project? And so it often yields a better return from them, and they're willing to usually put more money in than they might have thought they were going to when they see support across all of those areas. And so you'll kind of see here too, right, we have that income that I mentioned from the rental units built in there. We have this public support that we're really seeking, as well as direct and indirect funding, where we will raise, from private foundations, from private individuals, corporations, faith-based community, as well as apply for grants. It will take some time as this project gets up and going. We've got to have some data, and be able to tell stories about the project to really apply for some of those larger federal grants, which we will go after. That were, you have opportunity oftentimes for multi-year funding of 3 to 5 years. And so, it'll take us a little time to build that up. So next slide. So where we are right now, we do have to go through a special use permit process with the city of Lenexa. We have officially filed that and are in the process. We are set to go before the Planning Commission on August 26th and before the entire Lenexa City Council on September 17th. We have hosted a number of community engagement opportunities. Initially, we have targeted the neighborhoods and businesses that are close by where the center will be, as well as we will host 2 more additional meetings on August 21st and August 22nd for the entire Johnson County community to come and learn more about the project and ask questions and learn how they can get involved. If all goes well through that special use permit process, we will close on the building at the end of October, and then we'll begin some renovations. As Chairman Kelly mentioned, we do expect that those will take till probably about September of 2025. So that's sort of the timeline that we're on. Sorry, I just went through the whole next slide too. So all that information is on the next slide. So you can go on to the next one. Oh, well, it wasn't in there. Okay, well, good thing I said it all, but we are happy to share those dates with you too. And we do have a flyer for those 2 additional last dates that'll be open to the whole public that we're happy to share, so you can share with any constituents that are interested. And we're really encouraging folks to please come out and learn more about this. There are a lot of myths and a lot of rumors going around about what the project is and what it isn't. So we just really encourage folks to please come out and get to know the project and ask your questions. We want people to ask questions. So now it's your turn to ask questions.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Boyer?
I actually do
Go
have a
ahead, Ms.
few.
Hams. Please, go ahead.
I agree with what Chairperson Kelly said. The process has not been ideal. It feels like we're coming in way late in the game. Not happy about that. So my questions are more about that. How are you, as Restart, the ones who are applying for the special use permit, not the county?
Correct.
Even though the county owns the facility?
Yes, there is a current assignment agreement that upon closing, the building will come to Restart. So Restart is the applicant for the special use permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that, but okay.
Yeah.
And then a question is, why do the city's contributions increase every year, but the county's, what I saw is $50,000, Mayor Kelly, or Chairperson Kelly mentioned it as $62,000. It doesn't seem to fluctuate. That may be someone else's business plan, not yours.
Yeah, I'm like, I can explain it, but I'll allow him to.
So, Councilmember Hands, thank you. Ours will continue with that same trajectory as the cities do, with that amount, and I believe it's a 2% increase.
So the 50,000 as well?
62, yes.
62.
Yes.
And the unincorporated is the same as the cities? Is that additional?
Per capita? Yes.
Okay, that's not the way it was in the document. Okay. And then my next question is probably is going to feel a little off topic to everyone but me. So my congregation is an IHN congregation. I talked to the powers that be yesterday. They are convinced that once you open, they will no longer be in business. And it just made no sense to me. And especially after I read that you're focusing on single adults, and we focus on families. So if you could speak to that, again, I understand not everyone's going to know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yes, we definitely encourage them to keep going. We don't want to lose any resources that are currently in this system, right? Because if we
agree.
do, what we looked at on that point in time data, right, of the 23%, there were a lot of folks that were in a shelter or in a transitional housing program on that night, and many of those people were there. So if that doesn't exist, then potentially the unsheltered increases, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's a big miscommunication that I'm not quite sure how we get it filled in properly.
Well, if you can connect me with folks, I would love to have a further conversation there and see how we can help support in that way too. If there's any way to help or support in any way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
We did go back and forth a lot about adults and families, right?
Right.
And we went back and forth a lot about doing both at the site. At our current operation in Kansas City, Missouri, we do youth, adults, and families all in one building, and it is way complicated. I would never repeat that setup, and in fact, there we're looking to purchase a separate building to increase our family shelter, but have it at its own site. Families really do just have a lot more needs, and when you start mixing populations inside one building, it just adds to the layers of complication. And we feel like really, families are best served at a family site. And we've met with the Olathe Salvation Army Family Shelter and, talked with them as well. So.
Okay. I know that IHN congregations are falling because they have the same struggle everyone does to get volunteers.
Yes.
Because you have to staff it 24/7, as you know.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Well, we're happy to try to recruit volunteers or work partner in any way that we can. So.
Something we need to work for. I think that's all that's from my long list. I do want to say just up front, I'm very supportive in passing the resolution that we have, so.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Shadrich.
What kind of burden will this take away from our current co-responders that we have, or will there be burden added to them?
Yeah, so we would expect that it will take away burden, right? Because they will not have the repeated interactions with folks, especially experiencing unsheltered homelessness, because right now they're just sort of going back out and interacting with them over and over because there's not really a solution to put them into. And so once there's a solution for those folks to go into, because all those folks they're interacting with now should be already on that by name list and they should be ready to go, right? And so we want that to continue to happen. So we want street outreach and those co-responders still out there doing that work. And Johnson County Mental Health is going to have 9 outreach staff now instead of 2. So there's going to be additional folks. So we would anticipate over this, next year, before it opens as well, kind of bringing together street outreach, co-responders, all the law enforcement agencies across Johnson County to say there's additional resources coming with the street outreach workers and this additional resource coming. So how do we need to work together to revisit the system and how it's working, right? So we look forward to that too.
I have one more question. So the best way to phrase this. So what do you anticipate the operations and administration impact would be on the communities where the facility will be? So like the neighboring communities, the city where it is, et cetera, will they be fully responsible for all the responses that happen there, policing, et cetera?
Yeah, we would anticipate responses to that actual site to go down from what they are now. There are quite a few responses that happen at that property now. And in our work, we really see that go down. Once folks kind of come into the program and have access to those support services, we see that emergency response drop dramatically. And we've, in some of our business meetings that we hosted with some of the businesses around there, they're very excited to be able to hire people. They all said they have jobs that they can't hire people for, and so we're already connecting them with our employment services person to start building that relationship, to start building a pipeline for them into those things. And a number of them also shared, that they have lost business because of folks experiencing homelessness, being around or inside their building, and that they really saw this as the solution and recognized that there's really not a solution currently other than calling the police, but they see the person, return right back.
So in summary, you're anticipating a relief on co-responders and law enforcement
Yes.
in general?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Silvers, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that most people would agree that this is a much-needed service, but it also makes me have to ask, because we're all responsible for our residents' tax dollars. So can you explain how transparent you're going to be with Johnson County and the cities that participate in this, and what type of oversight Johnson County and those cities will have on your budgets?
Yeah. So UCS is going to oversee an oversight and advisory board, which will be made up of key community stakeholders that will really be sort of that oversight, but also a resource, right, for the project as well. We'll definitely, provide at minimum annual updates, but probably at least quarterly or semi-annual updates to the city and county as well, particularly in the first year of a project like this. It's really important that we keep an eye on really what's happening, right, as new projects come online, so we can make tweaks and adjustments if we need to. So that's really important. And so we definitely want, open lines of communication. Now we host a monthly, coffee and conversation at our current locations in Missouri, just open to the public or anyone to just say, come in, take a tour, learn about what's going on. We find the best way is just to invite people in to learn about what's going on and learn about the work. We have built in sort of to that funding as well, sort of a 3-year checkpoint to really evaluate how are things going. Have we been able to apply for any of those larger federal grants, right? And so that we can make any adjustments with the cities on that calculation if that were to change in some positive way, right? which we hope. But, as we mentioned, right, it takes a little bit in those first few years to kind of get your legs under you. So, yeah.
Any other questions this way? Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, first of all. I had a question about the intake. So there's 4 locations for intake. How do people know about those? Is that your street outreach team that you mentioned, or how do people find that?
Yeah, so all the information for those are on the UCS website under the Coordinated Entry System and the Continuum of Care. All the agencies that are involved in that too typically usually have flyers and information up. If they get calls from folks, they'll usually notify folks to come in, right, and do that process. As well as street outreach workers and co-responders can do that assessment in the community as well. So that will continue to go, and there will be some more folks on that street outreach team to be able to do that as well, recognizing that it's not always easy for some folks to get to one of those hubs, right? So
yeah, that was my question, basically, because they're not necessarily convenient. To me, they're not convenient. And
yeah.
If I'm mistaken, 3 out of 4 of them were more faith-based entities also, and so that might be a barrier for some people. So I was just kind of curious about that.
Yes. Yeah. So we can. That's where when we have additional street outreach workers, they can respond more in the community too, especially if someone indicates they can't, get there. So, yeah.
Mr. Caldwell, did you have? Go ahead.
Yeah, I thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for allowing the cities to support you. I think that's really, really important. This is a backyard issue for us in here in Merriam. That wooded area at 75th and I-35 is a prime camping spot for the unhoused community. And our strategy of driving them deeper and deeper into the woods has not worked.
Yeah.
So this is really the first time I've ever seen us try to do something proactive to help them. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Well, all right. Well, yeah, and again, I reiterate what all the other council members have said, is that this is much larger than a city, what any individual city can accomplish. And so we appreciate the county taking this on. And obviously, you know, we're looking at a resolution here to try to show our support. My question, I guess, to you is what's going to happen if some of the cities aren't supportive?
Yeah. Well, we won't be coming back to ask you for more, so you can rest assured for that. So, you know, like with all new things, I always say there's early adopters and late adopters, right? So we sure hope everyone will come out as an early adopter and have the same sentiment that you've just said here tonight, right? That if we come together around the solution, it will have an impact for all of us. But we'll continue working those relationships and bringing folks along. We got a little bit of time here, so we'll keep working that. And additionally, if folks still don't come along, that's just money we'll have to make up in the direct and indirect support, you know, of raising those dollars privately, applying for grants, reaching out to faith-based communities and all those things. So we'll adjust. We're used to money and sources ebbing and flowing in the nonprofit world. So, yep.
All right. Thank you. All right. Chairman Keller, do you have any closing remarks or anything you need to say, or any of our commissioners? I see we have another commissioner that's also walked in. Is there?
Yeah, Commissioner Janae Hanslick has come to show her support as well. No real wrap up for me other than to say thank you for the good questions. I had no doubt there would be good questions. We think this is a real opportunity to help flex the muscles of communication too. Well, you mentioned the coordinated entry system. The more that we can have our teams working together on that, the better we're going to be in serving these folks, whether it be through the HSC or otherwise, diverting them to other resources. So it's a great opportunity for us to continue that coordination and partnerships that we have that we know we've got work to do on our side. And I think that there's just growth that can help on all fronts within our county. So we're looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Kearney. Thank you, Ms. Boyer. And thank you, commissioners, for showing up.
We have a
Yeah, I think at this point, we're ready to move on to, go ahead, Mr. LaHaye, go ahead.
I had one thing I wanted to note on the resolution language.
Okay.
Can we update the denominations that we use? Because I don't think when we talk about projecting an increase of 2/100ths of a cent per resident a year is what we meant to say. I think it's supposed to be 2 cents. It's just, it gets confusing when we switch dollars and cents and use some in both places and some and not. Like at the last paragraph, I think we're talking about raising it 2 cents per resident per year for the next 5 years, not 2/100ths of a cent.
Yes, I understand what he says.
Okay. Are you following that, Mr. Engel? Is that?
It's the cover page. Sorry, yeah. I mean, I know it's not binding, but yeah, yes. Can we just make it all dollars and fractions of a dollar? It would make my math brain happy. Thank you. All right. Okay.
Okay.
The resolution's what people will see.
Okay.
So we don't need to change that. Okay?
But we have to make Jacob happy.
Well, we'll make Jacob happy.
Nobody's happy. Mr. LaHaye ain't happy. Okay. All right, well, I would entertain a motion for the resolution then showing support if we, okay, go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a resolution pledging financial support to a Johnson County Homeless Services Center.
Okay, we have a motion. I have a second. Go ahead. Mr. Silvers, is that you? Okay.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Silvers. Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Silvers.
I'd like Merriam to be an early adopter on this, so yay.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay. Well, thank you, commissioners and chairman and Restart and everyone for being here. And I think with our resolution this evening, we've shown that the city of Merriam supports this going forward. So, okay, thank you. You're welcome to stick around as long as you want. We'll probably be here another 3 or 4 hours, but yeah, yeah. No, I won't go.
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Okay. All right, well, let's get back on our other, back on track here, I guess. Looks like the next item up would be item number 3, adopt an ordinance 1872 to incorporate the 2024 standard traffic offense. City attorney, okay. Mr. Dink is coming to the podium.
Good evening, Ryan Dink, City Attorney. I am pinch hitting for the chief this evening. I'm going to cover the next 3 items. Item number 3 on your agenda is a request for action on Ordinance 1872 relating to adoption of the 2024 standard traffic ordinances. For those of you who've been on the council, which is all of you, this is something that comes up every year. The League of Kansas Municipalities adopts updated versions of the standard traffic ordinances, as well as the next action item, which is the Uniform Public Offense Code. In essence, what LKM does is update those 2 documents relative to action by the legislature over the past year. The changes to the standard traffic ordinances were very minor this year. There were the 2 changes that are noted in there are to section 201.1 from the 2023 version, which is repealed, and the section 201.2, which was actually a request that was taken up by the legislature at the request of LKM, and I actually saw it on some city attorney listservs that a lot of municipal court judges felt that the way that the statutes were written for certain types of traffic citations, that they had no alternative but to suspend licenses, and municipal court judges and prosecutors wanted more discretion in fashioning different types of remedies. So that was a change that came from LKM and from the city attorneys. We are, as to action item number 3, Ordinance 1872, we are requesting that you waive the first reading and take action.
Any questions, Mr. Dink, before we make a motion? Okay. I would entertain a motion to waive the first reading. Okay, Ms. Hands.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of Ordinance 1872, adopting the 2024 Standard Traffic Ordinance.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Chandra.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy. Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve it. Ms. Hands.
And Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve Ordinance 1872, adopting the 2024 Standard Traffic Ordinance.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Hodrich.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell. Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, you're up, Mr. Dink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 4 is request for passage of Ordinance 1873. This is associated with what I just mentioned. This is the ordinance adopting the 2024 version of the Uniform Public Offense Code. There are, again, fairly minor changes to the Uniform Public Offense Code. One change was to section 9.1 relating to disorderly conduct. It was kind of interesting. There was a Kansas Supreme Court case that came down this year which necessitated this change. I think it was a case out of the city of Wichita where there was some political speech, and the individuals who were engaged in the political speech were cited for disorderly conduct. The Kansas Supreme Court said that violated the First Amendment, so there were changes made. That ordinance now relates only to fighting words. The other change is to section 9.9.1. And this is a change which indicates that, again, according to a statute passed by the legislature, is if you're caught in possession of marijuana and the request or the call that you make to emergency medical services is for medical service and you are in essence compliant, meaning you're not combative, when EMS and public safety shows up, that you won't be cited for possession. So those are the two changes to the Uniform Public Offense Code. We do have a number of changes that we enact every year in Merriam. The first three changes all relate to discharges of firearms within city limits. In the city of Merriam, we do not allow for that. So that necessitates changes to sections 6.2.1, 6.2.2, and 10.5. And then a change that the chief and I, through discussion, ended up making a change to. We had previously had separate sections relating to controlled substances. After a thorough review and discussion with the chief relating to those sections, really I think what happened is Kansas statutes have kind of caught up to what our prior practices were in the city of Merriam, so there are not any material differences from what we had previously exempted ourselves. So we are now going to go ahead and adopt and incorporate the sections of the Uniform Public Offense Code. So we will no longer exempt ourselves. So with that, I again request a waiver of the first reading and adoption of Ordinance 1873. Be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Dink?
Was there a list of fighting words? I'm just curious.
No, but there's case law out there that kind of defines what it is. You have to be eliciting a physical response, not
Okay.
just name calling.
Not
things
just
like
them's fighting words.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to waive the customary first reading. Go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
Let's see, which one are we on here? 1873. Mr. Mayor, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of Ordinance 1873, adopting the 2024 Uniform Public Offense Code.
Okay, I have a motion. Ms. Hands, second.
I second it.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion second.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy. Councilmember Silvers. Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, I would entertain a motion to approve it. Go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve Ordinance 1873, adopting the 2024 Uniform Public Offense Code.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay, Ms. Shveta.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy. Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, moving right along.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 5 is a request to again waive the first reading and for adoption of Ordinance 1874. This is an ordinance which would prohibit blocking or occupying electrical vehicle spots unless you are actually plugged in. It would apply on both public or private property. However, an important caveat on that is, because I had the question in my mind, what if you had a charging station on your own private property and you didn't want this to apply to you? Well, it has to be posted, and so you have to give the city permission to post the spot on private property. such that the individual who was parking there would be put on notice that if they parked there and weren't actively engaged in charging their vehicle or were blocking the spot, that they would be subject to a fine. We do have a fine schedule. This ordinance is mirrored off of the Overland Park ordinance. It's a little bit different in the fine structure, but for the most part, it is taken fairly verbatim out of what the Overland Park City Council adopted. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
I actually spoke with the chief about this today and had no questions until you mentioned something about private property. Can you explain on private property, the Merriam Police would not be able to ticket onto that, ticket on that property unless, one, they're called by the owner of the private property, or two, they enter in a contractual agreement with that property to allow the police to actually watch that property, like drive through that property looking for vehicles that are illegally charging or parked. Is that correct?
Yeah, generally, I think that's right. I mean, we have a similar situation where we have handicap spaces on private property. If it's posted per our city ordinance and per the standard traffic ordinances, then we have a right to ticket those vehicles. And I'd probably defer to the chief, but generally, if a private property owner in a public parking lot will be quote unquote, even though it's on private property, be a public parking lot, and they agree to have those spots posted, then, you know, they're going to have the police department generally is going to have the right to enter upon the property and to enforce the law. Yep.
Okay, any other questions, or are we ready for
I
waiving?
Well,
Yeah.
I have one question.
One question, go ahead. Let's do the question first.
So, and maybe we're just not there yet, but if I have my car plugged in, but it is fully charged, and I think I read somewhere that's called idling, but I don't know how that possibly could be true. This doesn't, we're not there yet. We're not covering that yet, right?
Yeah, I don't know that we try to split that hair in the language, nor did Overland Park.
Okay.
They basically said you have to be actively plugged into the electrical vehicle charging station.
Okay. I mean, it will come up
Right.
eventually, but we're not there yet. Okay.
Inactively plugged in.
Inactively plugged in.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for the waiving of the customary first reading. Ms. Hands? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of ordinance 1874 regulating electric vehicle parking.
Okay, we have a motion, I have a second. Go ahead, Ms. Shatters.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion second.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve it. Okay, Ms. Shatters.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve ordinance 1874 regulating electric vehicle parking.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Hands.
I second it.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, well, it looks like we're down to number 6. Consider approval of the purchase of one 2024 Bobcat. Okay, looks like we have Superintendent Fine at the podium.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's been a minute since I've been up here. Tonight, Public Works is seeking approval of a 2024 Bobcat utility vehicle. This is replacing a 1971 Bros broom. So the new machine will have broom attachments, it'll have bucket attachments, it'll have a utility bed. Basically more versatile that we can do maintenance along the path. The reason this item is brought before you is when we put together our 10-year kind of equipment replacement schedule, we budgeted for $77,000. Price came in at $77,982. So just being transparent and want to make sure you guys are okay. We have money still in the Public Works Equipment Reserve Fund, so we're good. We're not going over budget. Just like I said, want to be transparent and answer any questions if you have any.
Go ahead, Mr. Silvers, any question?
Yeah, one quick question. At one point when we were discussing the downtown Merriam revitalization and possibly having dedicated bike lanes, the topic came up about having equipment that could basically sweep those lanes to keep them safe for bikes. Would this be used for that, or would this be, would that be a different vehicle at that, if we ever get to that point?
I mean, there might be a smaller machine that might be used. I'm not sure what that will look like in the future down there, but this is capable. Definitely better than what we had with that big Bros broom. So I believe we also have a sidewalk snow removal tool that has a broom on it that we just purchased either last year or this year. So that's another option.
Thank you.
I'm very disappointed we didn't get a picture.
Oh, there we go.
I also am very disappointed every time we buy something cool like this, we never get to try it out.
Well, they often bring it up here and show it to us.
Public Works open house.
Not like broom attachments
No,
and cool
not a
stuff.
broom attachment.
I want to be forklift certified.
Don't we all?
You know, I have been called Bobcat Bob before, in case you need some help running this thing.
No, no.
It's very colorful. Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think we need a Public Works open house so we can come look at it
Let's do
when
it.
we get it.
Yeah.
Touch a truck at Public
Yeah.
Works.
Yes,
Touch truck.
without children.
Any other questions for
Because they always make
Superintendent Fine, or
lines. Oh, no.
question? No.
No.
No other questions? I would entertain a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve the purchase of one 2024 Bobcat UW56 with angle broom attachment in the amount of $77,982.02.
A motion, let me get Shatters, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director, or Superintendent Fine. Okay, let's see, I think, by golly, we've been in that order. I think next item up, I believe, is the finance report. We have Director Oliver coming forward.
I wanted to give you a quick update on a couple of items having to do with the budget. There have been 3 items added to the proposed budget. One of them being a salary survey for $30,000. It's been city policy that every 3 years we would do a salary survey, and so this would allow that to be accomplished next year. The Homeless Support Center, based on the recommendation from the county, our share would be $8,300. And then lastly, an office reconfiguration in the amount of $10,000. This would actually reconfigure the office that the accounting clerk is in and allow for the accountant to also room out of that room, and then the office the accountant's in could be repurposed for IT. So if there's any questions about that, I would be happy to answer.
Any questions for Director Oliver?
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Just a reminder of the calendar. Next meeting, all the action happens. We'll have a hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and to adopt the budget and hopefully get all that done. So your monthly finance report was in your packet. I would be happy to answer any questions.
I saw it was a little down. Is it?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I saw we're still a little bit behind on some of that.
We
Do
are.
we have any ideas?
We
as to-
are. I mean, we're just gradually catching up each month, but one thing about it, it really isn't in, as far as sales tax go, it really isn't in car sales. It's more in the retail sector. So we're still doing good with car sales.
Good.
So.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Oliver concerning the budget or the finance report? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, looks like the next item up would be the August CIP update. Superintendent Fine, coming to the podium.
All right. I did glance over this memo that Ms. Celia prepared. Goodness. And nothing monumental, groundbreaking. You guys have any questions on any items on this update?
Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Ms. Chandra.
I have a comment. The folks who use Knox at Johnson Drive are thrilled that our sinkhole is fixed.
Oh, it's fixed.
Yes.
And we can drive
Yep.
without taking a detour anymore. We just feel so privileged now to drive straight. Thank you.
So when I went home Friday evening, it was still closed. Did it open
Not
up
anymore.
Saturday?
We're back in business, baby.
I guess a couple quick things. The gabion basket repair, there's a sanitary sewer line on the east portion of that repair that needs to be replaced. Sanitary sewers got plans for that, and they're on the hook for paying it. It's just going to be kind of under that contract when it gets all the plans get developed, and we come to you and asking for approval for that construction project. That's one thing that wasn't on here, so.
Mr. Silvers, go ahead.
I just had a request to double check and make sure that steel plates aren't being stored on Grandview and 49th.
That I wasn't aware of, but we will check that.
There've been steel plates there for quite a while, but there has not been any activity for probably 3 weeks.
Okay, I'll follow up. I did make a comment to the right-of-way inspector about the ones on Knox that they just got removed, so yes, get those.
There are still
Otherwise,
steel
maybe-
plates on Knox.
Maybe Public Works
but
can use them, I'm not sure, so.
At least we can drive through it. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I understand, because that project just ended.
Sure.
But the project on 49th, I feel like it's been done for.
That's strange.
3 weeks.
Okay.
At least, yeah.
Will do.
Any other questions for Superintendent Fine? That's easier said. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, well, we have informational items. Park and Rec Advisory Board had minutes. Where do we have Assistant Director Smo over there? If we have any questions for him, but no questions for him. Thank you for being here, though.
Smo, you want to give a 30-second update on Anna?
Yeah, how's Anna done?
Okay. How's Anna doing?
Surgery went well. She's doing her physical therapy, and yeah, she's doing really well.
Had a knee replaced, for just in case anybody didn't know. Smo's a veteran of that battle.
Yeah.
Good coach to have.
Take her drugs, do her exercises.
Yeah. That's what my doctor tells me every year.
And you listen to him, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do we have any items for staff, Mr. Engel?
I don't. I only have one item. That is your new resident packets are ready. Please do not hesitate to pick those up and get those out to new residents. They're in the cabinets, I believe, or on top of the cabinets, or in the drawers, or somewhere. Please don't hesitate to go home with a handful of them. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Engel?
I don't have any questions, but I do think we should appreciate that Julie is here on her birthday, and yesterday was Donna's.
Oh, my gosh. Well, happy birthday. Okay, yeah.
Taking
All right.
care of
Well, I
us.
feel like we ought to sing for you.
I know.
No, that's quite all right.
Guess you've heard me sing, okay. All right.
Bobcat Bob on the mic.
All right. If there's no other items before the council this evening, I'd entertain a motion. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Shondrich, is that?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a second?
I second that.
Ms. Hands? Okay, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.